The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for short time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, episode 289, we're talking with Sally Roberts. She is the executive director of Wrestle Like a Girl, a new foundation, new group that's out there to obviously do what you think the title suggests, Wrestle Like a Girl, and to grow the sport of wrestling and grow females in the sport of life. And Sally, first of all, welcome to the program. You're a very happy, bubbly person this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me. And I like to think I'm always happy and bubbly.
Yeah, you know what? Sally and I have known each other for a very long time, so this could go many different ways, but we'll just keep it very happy right now. Sally also was a world bronze medalist in 2003, the World Championships in New York City. And Sally, you've been a part of the Army WCAP program. You've been a part of women's wrestling teams since you got out of high school. Let's just start about your personal reason on why Wrestle Like a Girl started and what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's a good question. Wrestle Like a Girl it's a bit of a mix of many different things that have occurred to me in my life. And so growing up, I came from very disadvantaged means, and I was getting in trouble for shoplifting and stealing and breaking into houses. And so I got picked up by a juvenile detention officer. And they said that unless I found something to do after school, I was going to be going to juvenile detention. And since I grew up in the mean streets of Seattle, I had a very strong awareness of what juvie was, and I knew I didn't want to go. So I tried out for all the girls' sports. That was softball, basketball, volleyball, and I got cut from every single one of them because they told me that I was unathletic. So I really needed something to do in order to avoid having to go to jail. And I looked down at the list of activities. I saw that wrestling was a no-cut sport, and that's really what changed my life around. So I decided to go out for wrestling. I loved it. I told her brothers. We fought all the time at home. And so now I was getting told how to actually use the strength and the capacities that I had to leverage it to make myself a better person. So because of wrestling, I'm the youngest in my family, the first to graduate high school. I went on to college. I got my undergraduate degree, and I finished my master's in sport and performance psychology. So coming full circle, being an elite athlete, it's a very selfish endeavor. And I always said, man, when I'm done wrestling, I'm going to figure out a way to give back to the community at large, because that's a debt that I've promised myself to repay. So here I am making all of it come to fruition with Wrestle Like a Girl, and encompassed within that organization, we target socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, low-income communities, and we target those girls that maybe otherwise would want to go and wrestle because they have the grit and tenacity and fight that they learned from the survivability of their youth, but they don't know that option exists. So we go around and we teach these girls the sport of wrestling and just give them another avenue for them to decide how they want their life to play out.
Yeah, and timing on this is pretty hot right now because we're coming off an Olympic cycle. We're coming off Helen Maroulis finally becoming that first Olympic champion for the United States. And how much is Helen's performance and that gold medal really helping kickstart your organization?
It has been profound. I've been reached. There are so many people that have reached out to me to say, "Oh my gosh, what do you think about Helen Maroulis and her gold medal?" Well, it's really fantastic and it's really phenomenal. And I love the fact that she was able to put everything in a line and have her dream come true. But really, from my perspective, looking at Helen Maroulis, she's really fantastic because in 2012, she didn't make the team. She had anxiety. She had some things that she really needed to develop and define within herself on how she wanted the trajectory of her life to go, whether that was to stay in sport or not. So that gold medal just signifies that is what can happen when things don't go right in your life. You sit down, you make a plan, you reformat some things, and you really start attacking your goals and your dreams with a new vigor and a new intensity. And that's exactly what she did. So the gold medal is fantastic, but to me, the process of what made that gold medal happen is really the most notable aspect.
Yeah, and that process, and Helen came through the junior age groups and wrestled in Fargo and things like that. And when you were getting out of high school in 1999, just to give you some backstory, there was no junior nationals yet. That didn't start until 2002. So, and you went through one of the very first actually the first women's college program at Minnesota Morris and then Pacific. So you've got the background with the college program, the opportunities, but there's a lot more opportunities for colleges now and a lot more opportunities. Now there's a cadet women's tournament. There's a junior women's tournament. You've got junior duels just like you do with the boys side. So you've got a lot more resources to point these girls to. And how much is the evolution of women's wrestling and all these tournaments really given Wrestle Like a Girl a real strong foundation to be like, okay, now we've got these girls interested in wrestling. What do we do? Now you can point them in directions, be like, look, there's colleges here. There's international stuff here. You can win medals too.
That's right. So one of the other things that we do is that we are, because of who our board members are and because of the organization and how fluent we are with wrestling and female wrestling, we're able to go out and talk to these girls and have intelligent conversations and letting them know what their resources are and how to get into the USA Wrestling pipeline and how to get into the collegiate pipeline so that they can take wrestling and use it as a tool to advance their life. So it's been really helpful and it's been really terrific that everyone that has been working with us has been so great and so gracious, and it's been so collaborative and so cooperative that our message gets amplified just by the fact that we're promoting it in such a positive, healthy way.
Yeah, let's look at your home state of Washington. The Mat Classic is like the big dog there, Tacoma Dome, I think it is, and it's all these mats, and there's a girls' tournament with it. I mean, just compare 15 years ago to where you were like growing up wrestling there, and now there's a girls' state tournament.
There is a girls' state tournament. So there's 6, almost 7 states that have girls sanctioned high school state championships. And my home state of Washington is one of them. And it is so phenomenal. I got to go out and watch the Mat Classic, and I got to see these girls compete. And there is such a livelihood and there is so much excitement and vigor. And when you give these girls an opportunity for them to really stretch themselves and their minds and really go for a goal, and you give them an opportunity to make that happen, it's really fantastic to see how much excitement and growth and love for the sport that they have, just like any other wrestler does. It's cool.
What about giving these girls the opportunity to have sports heroes that aren't necessarily Serena Williams? They're not Mia Hamm. You give them a Helen Maroulis now. I mean, that type of thing. I've used this example quite a few times with my own. I have 2 daughters. And as a wrestling person, I'm glad that now I have the opportunity to put a poster up of Helen on the wall, because there's somebody that if they like the sport of wrestling, they have somebody they can point to be kind of a role model and type of that enigmatic athlete that's like, I like this. I may not be great at tennis, but I love Serena Williams. I may not be great at soccer, but I love Mia Hamm. They have your sports heroes. I'm terrible at basketball. I had Orlando Magic posters on my wall growing up. So we've got that option now for these girls too.
Yes, and Helen is such a positive advocate for the sport. So she's the first one to say, hey, I may not know everything or be the best at everything, but I'm true to myself and I'm true to my sport, and I give my 100% every day, always working to make those small improvements that are going to have a lasting impact over my lifetime. And so for girls to be able to look up and say, I want to be like Helen Maroulis, and they can identify with her because they can identify with her journey, her process, and how she portrays herself in a very positive light. She's an exemplary role model for all of the girls that wrestle, not only in the United States, but in the world. I got told that by one of my colleagues that works in diplomacy that Helen Maroulis' match for the gold medal match where she wrestled Saori Yoshida was televised live in the Arab world for the first time. They televised women's wrestling, and they're huge fans of wrestling, as you all know. And her match, and that historic match, was televised live in Saudi Arabia for people to watch.
Wow, that's knowing the way that the culture over there works. Wow, that's notable. That's for sure notable. And as far as this organization goes, we've kind of talked a little bit about the roots of it, but you can find it on the web at wrestlelikeagirl.org, on Twitter at Wrestle, that's with 1 E, so WRSTLE, like a girl, and on Facebook, Wrestle Like a Girl spelled out. And you've got an interesting board here too. You've got Catherine Shai, who's formerly known as Catherine Fulp Allen, Emma Randall, who's a national team coach at USA Wrestling, Taylor O'Donnell, part of that first Olympic team in 2004, and Jack Jensen, a member of the Army WCAP program and a Greco-Roman background, All-American at Oklahoma State. So let's talk about this board and the people involved and how they bring their dynamic skill sets to Wrestle Like a Girl?
Sure. So Jack Jensen is a walking encyclopedia of wrestling. Similar to you, he's able to go back and recount and recite and say who wrestled in what match and what the outcome was and what may or may not have been any like undertones or political implications. And so he brings this wealth of wrestling knowledge to our organization that supersedes just female wrestling. Like, he knows all wrestling. So when it came time to having a board, he quickly wanted to jump on it and join and align with us because his passion for wrestling is so strong. And if we're able to afford more opportunities, we just see he was able to understand that giving females opportunities meant that was giving more opportunity for all. And once we get to a point where we can get enough female programs going and there's that equality balance, that Title IX is going to work both ways and we can work to grow the sport. So that's Jack Jensen's piece. He's really brilliant and has so much knowledge and so much value. Emma Randall, she was a bit of a no-brainer for me. I worked with her when I was an athlete, and she's probably, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant strategists for female wrestling that I've ever come across. And so when we sit down and we start looking at our camps and where we want to have them and why, she's able to understand all of the pipeline athletes and their thinking and their mentality, because she's with them on a day in, day out basis, and say, here's where we should have a camp. Here's a really great population that's underserved that could really benefit. And she can start pinpointing why we want to have camps there and how the cost of it is going to get incorporated, or if we have to go out and get sponsors because she's aware of the socioeconomic status of communities as well. So she's really brilliant. Catherine Chai is a complete wonderful balance, especially to me. I can be such a fireball and I want to save the world in one day. And she wants to sit back and look at the options and examine it and make sure that the decisions that we're making are wise. She has a background in nonprofit management. And so she really understands the organization and she understands business and helping us tie all those things together. And Taylor and I were roommates at the Olympic Training Center from 2002 until 2004. So for 2 years, we were roommates where it was actually bunk beds. We didn't have our own room. So we got to know each other so well. And one of the things that I was thinking about when I brought her on board is that she has a moral compass that is unlike any other that I've ever met, where she genuinely wants to do the right thing because it makes her feel good. And so she is the moral compass, making sure that the funds that we bring in are getting allocated where they should, and that our main purpose is to serve females in the sport of wrestling, and that our agenda always has the right meaning and connotation. So she's kind of our moral ballast, for lack of a better term. So that's exactly what she does, and she's able to bring that every time to every board meeting. And when we talk about where we're going as an organization, she's always the first to say, I like this idea because it supports girls, or I don't like this idea because I don't think it actually has the intended benefit of what we would want.
Yeah, and also to go back to Emma a little bit, we talked about this right before we started the show here. Emma Randall is the only woman in this country that is a gold certified USA Wrestling coach. So, you've got a trailblazer in so many different ways, with Taylor being on that first Olympic team, and you got a trailblazer with, Catherine being the daughter of an Olympian in the late Lee Allen. Then you've got a trailblazer in Emma Randall doing something no woman has ever done before. So you've really got a dynamic board here, and I'm pretty impressed by what we've got. But let's just talk about Emma and that gold certification. That's a lot of work to be a gold level coach.
Yeah. She got presented the opportunity to pursue this certification, and she was really excited to take it on. It was a challenge. There was a lot of work involved. She had to really put all of her mental capacities towards that challenge to earn that certification. And by the time she was done, she was so proud, and it was such a fulfilling moment. And the second and third order effects of that have been paramount. So now she's going out with United World Wrestling and doing coaches clinics on an international basis. So she's able to go out there and use the credentials and her voice that she's acquired through her years of wrestling and say, hey, here's how we do it and here's how things are done. And so it's really been able to amplify her message.
Yeah, and other thing you talk about the socioeconomic backgrounds, and Taylor is the tie-in to this as well, because that first Olympic team with the 4 weights in 2004, Patricia Miranda, she's of mixed race, Asian descent. Taylor O'Donnell, she's from up in Alaska, I believe she's of Inuit or Eskimo descent, and Takara Montgomery's African American. So 3 of those 4 first members have a different racial makeup, that we look in the schools and we're looking at opportunities that aren't just for the white kids. We've got plenty of opportunity, various, rich, poor, whatever race, color, creed, even if you're, like Anthony Robles has shown, if you're missing a leg, I mean, the sport of wrestling really is encompassing. And I think the board kind of shows all those directions as well.
Yeah, we definitely approached it with the idea that wrestling is for anybody. And we brought in people that don't necessarily think like me and don't act like me and have different life experiences, so that when we came and sat down around our table and talked about the strategical advancement and how we wanted to go forward as an organization, they all brought something different to the table. So it's certainly not this it's not the same thought and it's not the same thinking. It's ideas and bouncing things off of each other, and it's really collaborative, and we can get fairly steamed because we want to grow the sport, but we also know that it's important to work together. So we have a really strong diplomatic process, and we're really proud of that.
There's also a book coming out with the same title, Wrestle Like a Girl, that Jamie Moffat and Craig Sesker are working on. And it's rare to see like an organization come out and it's like, okay, here's our book. And you're like, wait a minute, what? What's the idea behind the book? I understand it's the stories of women's wrestlers and the trailblazers in it, but what was the idea behind it and getting it out there at the same time the organization is really getting off the ground?
It was very serendipitous. So we started our organization in January, and I was really low key with everything that I was doing behind the scenes until I retired from sport, which was this past April, and then I was getting out of the Army. So we were really low key with it, but then once we had everything aligned, we came out with it. And about that same time, Jamie Moffat and Craig Sesker called me up and said, hey, we know that you have this organization called Wrestle Like a Girl. We're working on a book. Let's collaborate and see if we can do it together. So it was actually Jamie and Craig's brainchild. And then when they told me about what they were doing, we said, oh my gosh, this is absolutely something we need to get on board with. So from the get-go, it was such a positive, cool experience. I got to write the foreword and speak about how all these short stories of these really amazing, trailblazing female wrestlers, how they were interlaced with my own life and my own experience. So it was a really collaborative process. It started out as their own thing, and they recognized that we had a vehicle to really help get it out into the hands of a whole bunch of little girls across the country and women too. So that was how it came to be.
Yeah, and one thing, you talk about the stories. I'm curious on what stories you had, because you said you got into it, the sport of wrestling, late because you're basically trying to keep yourself out of trouble. And you're going into college wrestling and the first women's programs. There really weren't a whole lot of press in that time. I mean, Gary Abbott's been kind of carrying the flag for women's wrestling at USA Wrestling for a number of years. I mean, we're going on decades here. But the amount of the opportunity for these stories to really get out weren't that frequent. So who are some people or some stories that you looked at when you were coming through that's like, this is impactful to me?
Well, one of my teammates, Sarah McMahon, she's in the book, and she just has these stories of triumph over tragedy. And I always found so much strength and inspiration from her experiences and how she was able to look at each and every experience in her own way and use it as a fuel to her fire to become a better human being, to become a better wrestler, to become a better athlete, to become a better mom. And so you can take circumstances and look at it with a positive mindset, and fueling it for your own endeavors and your own advancement. So Sarah's story really stuck out to me because there's challenges in life that happen and they can suck so bad. And if we're able to figure out a way to wrap our brains around it and wrap our hearts around it in whatever ways we know how, and use it to make us better human beings, like that was really profound for me. And I knew her as a teammate, and to see her story in print and to see the authenticity and the vulnerability for which she portrayed it, it was just really powerful.
Yeah, we're also getting into the world of, Sarah was part of that era that came through without really, kind of on the beginnings of women's college wrestling. As we look forward to now, we're going into the 2016-2017 WCWA season. This league started back in 2004 as a loose organization, maybe a couple schools. Now we're in the 20s. We're approaching emerging status with the NCAA, and that would be just that would be a huge boon for women's college wrestling. But what do you think about what the WCWA and these schools, these small enrollment-driven schools in some places you've never even heard of, saying, we're going to add, Jamestown. They're pulling kids from Hawaii to wrestle in the middle of North Dakota. There's opportunities there. What do you think about what the WCWA has been able to do and these schools and these coaches to just really grow women's wrestling?
I think it's really fantastic. So being able to open up a program, because you see that there's a market and you see that there is girls that want to wrestle and they're willing to come from Hawaii to go to North Dakota, come from Hawaii and go anywhere. It's really cool that they're giving these girls an opportunity to not only wrestle, but get an education. And I'm always thankful to any school that has opened up their doors and opened up their locker rooms and opened up their mat space for girls to come out and wrestle. I think it's had second and third order effects that we can only begin to appreciate. So I'm absolutely, my hat is off to them for being very forward thinking all those years ago, to recognizing that there was a growth and there was a need, and they worked together in a really positive way to give these girls opportunities.
Now, if you go to the website, wrestlelikeagirl.org, you can see the various the ambassadors, the camp supports, and how to contact this organization. But one thing that you were talking about with Emma and the camps, and you guys are calling them empowerment camps. Let's explain why you're using that word empowerment.
Yes. So my background is in sport and performance psychology. Emma's background is in sports psychology. And as athletes that came from the Olympic Training Center through that pipeline, every day you're being asked to not only be a better wrestler, but to test yourself and to grow yourself in ways that most people don't know that is how an elite athlete trains. So being mindful of nutrition and understanding the components that goes into being an elite athlete and eating well. Hydration, how important it is to stay hydrated all the time, because that is one of the things that is able to help you increase your performance on a daily to minute by minute basis. All of the stuff that makes up the championship mindset skills, having a positive growth mindset and goal setting and ability to be resilient in the face of adversity and challenges. So the idea that came with our camps was, hey, we really want to go out and teach wrestling, high crotch, single leg, double leg, but wrestling is more than that. You can have all of those pieces and still never be a state champion, collegiate champion, national, world, so in order to make those dreams come true, they have to understand all the components that gets put in. And we thought, hey, if we do our empowerment camps and we go out and teach wrestling, but we also teach the importance of self-confidence and self-control and anxiety management and journaling and learning how to actually take on all those skills of an elite athlete mindset at a younger age, they'll have more time to develop that, because we found that the same anxiety that we would get before going into finals matches or wrestling tournaments, that's the same anxiety that I would feel before sitting for SATs or before someone would go in for a job interview. And if you can understand how to wrap your brain around that and how to control and manage yourself internally in wrestling, then you can certainly take all those skills and apply them to other areas and facets of your life.
With the group too, I've noticed you had the gala right there, right after Fargo, kind of a kickoff type of event, and sponsorship. This is a 501c3. You're still getting your feet wet. So if there's a company out there that really likes what they're doing, they're listening to this right now and be like, I need to get involved in this. How do they come up to Wrestle Like a Girl and say, what do you need? I'm here to help.
Yeah, easy enough. They can send me an email at sally@wrestlelikeagirl.org, and we're beginning a dialogue. We have some sponsorship decks. We have some sponsors that are coming on board. But one of the things that makes our organization fairly robust is that because we have the empowerment piece, and that is a huge component, we market it in the sense that we say we want to empower girls using the sport of wrestling. So we're able to tap into a lot of different facets that maybe other strictly wrestling organizations are not able to. So if there's anyone out there that would love to participate and join forces and help us to reach more and more girls across the United States and the world at large, empowering them through the sport of wrestling, we would love to collaborate.
Yeah, you've also had some functions where you've met with, movers and shakers in the political world and the sports world. I mean, what are some of the relationships you guys have already started to foster with Wrestle Like a Girl that kind of, as you said, that are outside of the sport of wrestling, kind of transcend the sport and are about sport itself, not necessarily just the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, so a little bit more background on myself is that because I'm a 2-time world bronze medal and a combat veteran with special operations, when I was invited to go to an event at the State Department. So when I would get up to speak, people would turn and listen to me a little bit more because I had both the athletic background and the military background. And that really started to open up doors that I didn't even realize hadn't been opened before by an entity to support female wrestling. So we were able to meet with former Irish president, Mary Robinson, and she's a huge advocate and used her position to promote female sport. So she was there, and we got to speak with Virginia Bennett, who's the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, and have a conversation with her about female wrestling and what that might look like to go international and to do some sport envoys and to be able to do exchanges and give backs. And then while we were there, we got to speak with various diplomats from countries all over the world saying, hey, how can we bring Wrestle Like a Girl to our country? Because you're very female-centric, and because of the background of what I bring and my ability to have those conversations and get invited, there's unlimited potential and opportunity for what it is we're able to do. So I've actually had to step back and tell people, hey, we would love to work with you, but right now we're focusing on the United States. And we have to develop our strategic plan, and we'll have a conversation in a little bit about what that might look like. But we're really excited that you want us to come out, and we're willing to help. We just need to make a plan and develop that.
So, what are the upcoming events for Wrestle Like a Girl? When can they come out and actually stand there and be like, okay, Sally, we've heard you here, and kind of get the real full Sally Roberts experience in the flesh, and just get blown away by everything you guys are doing?
Yeah. So right now we are right now we are developing our empowerment camps, and we're going to have 6 of them across the United States for 2017. So right now we're gathering all of our seed funding up and through December, and we're using this time to really develop our strategy and our plan. So we're not going to be in full force until 2017 when we start going across the country and doing our camps and targeting these girls and getting everyone involved. So we are working also with Cole Schrupp, who's the digital media expert for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, and he's developed some promotional videos that we have. So you can always look at the videos. And then other than that, we're going to be posting our dates on our website, and we hope that everyone wants to come out and attend a camp and support the organization.
And you guys are also doing something. This is on the website, folks. So if you go to wrestlelikeagirl.org, it is you click that Amazon Smile logo. So what this basically does is they're going to get a cut. Basically, it's an Amazon affiliate program, but you're going to be shopping. Why not shop and say, okay, some of this money's going to go to wrestling. So that's what I typically have done with other events. Like if I need to buy equipment for this podcasting stuff, prior to knowing about this, I would be like, okay, this guy gives me a lot of information. I'm going to use his Amazon affiliate link, kind of as a thank you. Now that we've got the Wrestle Like a Girl, I'm going to start all my Amazon purchases by going to this link. So they're going to get a kick off this. So take note of that, folks. So when you want to shop Amazon, think Wrestle Like a Girl first.
Yes, please do.
Because I'm getting I'm getting all these deals. I'm like, wow. I looked at my budget my profit and loss statement of this business. I'm like, I spent that much on equipment. Okay, well, now I know where some of those proceeds are going to go. So, Sally, you've picked up a new, at least, affiliate prior to next purchase, and that's easier for me to tell my wife I need to buy this, because then the girls are going to get something out of it too.
And we completely support and encourage that. So, thank you so much.
All right, Sally, any other things you want to throw at us that we haven't discussed with Wrestle Like a Girl? I realize it's still new for a lot of people. It's still new for me. I'm just getting my head around it, and just the conversations I've had briefly with you via text message and with Catherine out in Fargo when she was helping coach Team Virginia, because her sister Sarah, as you people out there might know, as formerly known as Sarah Falp Allen, she's married with child out in Virginia. Weirdly enough, lives in the same town I went to college in. So we're we've got former Fulp Allens everywhere, so I know a little bit about it. But Sally, it's been great to hear this. But anything else that we need to discuss about Wrestle Like a Girl and the people need to know?
We have our book that's coming out, The Wrestle Like a Girl. 100% of those proceeds go and fund our organization. So please pick up a copy for yourself and hand one out as a gift to anyone that you know that would love it. And then beyond that, if you want to support the organization but you don't have enough resources to do a large gift, consider supporting, doing a $100 donation that can support a girl to be able to go to camp in the future. So those are two of the things that we have going right now.
All right, Sally, you're not going to get off the hook very easily, though, because on this show, we have a segment that I'm still coming up with a name. I don't know if I'm going to go with like a sudden death, a sudden victory. I call it Short Time. The name of the show is Short Time, so it's a little confusing. But I'm going to get to ask you 10 questions, maybe more, and see if you can answer them in 90 seconds. I don't want you to think about it. I just want the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready for the challenge?
Uh-huh.
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right. Question 1. What's the best match you've ever watched?
Ooh, David Taylor and Jordan Burroughs, 2014 at the World Team Trial.
Number 2. I won the Olympic gold. What are you going to have for dinner?
Mac and cheese.
Yummy. Who's the best wrestler, man or woman, people don't talk about?
Oh, me.
All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
Ooh, here's great.
Favorite international wrestler outside of yourself?
Oh, my gosh. This is a challenge. I really like Steve.
Okay, you win the Powerball. What's the first college program you're going to start?
If I win, oh my gosh, listen, Troy Steiner at Fresno State. But, yeah, we're going out there to do a Wrestle Like a Girl camp in August, and they're going to let us use our regional training center. So I would love to get more girls to become a Bulldog and get some girls that can go to a 4-year state school.
Who was the best JV wrestler on your high school team?
Gosh, that was probably me, too. I was really horrible at wrestling in high school.
What's your favorite restaurant on the planet?
Applebee's.
Eating good in the neighborhood. And what is your spirit animal?
My spirit animal is a liger. It's a cross between a tiger and a lion.
And that's how we're going to end it. I can't go any further than that. Gosh. So great one there, Sally Roberts. Great way to end it up with the Napoleon Dynamite. Sally Roberts, 2-time world bronze medalist. I mentioned 2003 because I was there. It slipped my mind earlier about 2005 in Budapest, which is what we'll be going back to in a couple years for the Worlds. But Sally, thanks for the time. You can find him on the website at wrestlelikeagirl.org, on Twitter at wrestlelikeagirl. Remember, that's WRSTLE like a girl, because Twitter has those limitations. And on Facebook, facebook.com/Wrestle Like a Girl spelled out. Sally, thanks for coming on. Always, always, always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sally freaking Roberts, folks. She is an absolute just ball of energy. Stoked to see what her, Catherine, Taylor, Emma, and Jack are doing with Wrestle Like a Girl. So wrestlelikeagirl.org, folks. This is a nonprofit 501c3. So got a good insight on Sally Roberts. So that's good. Things that are coming up here. We haven't had an episode of Short Time since, I guess we're looking like 8-9 days at this point, because I wanted Kerry Regner and his Greco thing to sit and marinate for a while. It marinated so much that the T-Row and Funky show, Ben Askren and Tommy Rollins, they brought Kerry Regner on to talk about this Greco thing. So Williams Baptist, hey, fire up Eagles, if that's a thing. I can't really say fire up Chips, because that's a Kevin Claunch thing over at Blood Round. So that being said, speaking of like Blood Round fans, Drew Burgoyne came into town, and here's the thing. So I'm going to stop, because Drew is a patron of the show, and he's really been very generous with his support of the program. So a shout out to you. First off, how does he get in contact with me to, it's like we went out to a place, had a beer, talked wrestling. How does that happen? Well, all of you that make fun of me for my freaking weather tweets, yeah, bite me, okay? I tweet the weather every day. I'm a little bit of a weather nerd, okay? Before I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, I wanted to be a meteorologist. So I used to watch the Weather Channel, and like third grade and have maps and do these like, well, we've got a high pressure system coming in from the northwest. It's really going to make some problems for those folks down there in Salt Lake City. Then that high pressure coming from that northwest is going to meet this frontal boundary or whatever it was called. I used to do that in front of like a map in my house. So yeah, I'm a bit of a weather nerd, and yes, it auto tweets every day whether I'm there or not. So Danny Rubenstein, yeah, D-Rube, bite me, okay? Yes, you can talk about my weather tweets all you want, but guess what? Kyle Simmons has come out, and he was in town for a work trip. We met up and had a beer, talked some wrestling. Drew Burgoyne did the same thing. They knew where New Brighton was because of my weather tweet. So there's a message. If you want to get up and talk wrestling, and you're somewhere in the northern side of the Twin Cities, guess what? You know what city I live in, and you can probably use Google Maps, and hey, you get up and talk wrestling. So, that being said, big shout out to Drew. He had actually a chance to come by and actually see the formations of the Speakeasy. I've been talking about this on other shows and such, but the Speakeasy will be the studio for this program. Right now, it's just in my office, but it will be a standing bar, wrestling memorabilia, dartboard, like hidden type of thing. So, I'm basically giving away to you people where my cool stuff's going to be. But yeah, that's going to eventually get built. The goal there is January 18. So I can, January 1st of 2018, I can open it and it'll officially be the new Short Time Studios. So Drew got a shot at that. And like my piles of amateur wrestling news is like, I'm missing like 6 editions from 1956 to 2011. I think I stopped at 2011. I think mainly because of the results. Most of the results are online since then. But anyway, Drew's a patron of this show. He got a shirt, he got a draft glass, he got some stickers. And you can too by going to matttalkonline.com/join-the-team. And this is how this show gets funded. It's also how this show gets funded. It's also how the Wrestling Hall of Fame show, the Hall of Fame Legends program, gets funded. And we're creeping towards that $400 a month. And I can put those 2 episodes together a month for the Hall of Fame. You get more content the more you contribute. So if you've been thinking about it, I put out 26, close to 27 episodes across our network in just October alone. And now I'm not producing all of those shows. Let's give Earl Smith, Kyle Klingman, Eric Knopf-Snyder, and Jeff Upson, and Richard Immel their due. They're really a big part of this network too. But that's a lot of episodes. That's a lot of free on-demand content. So if you like it, contribute at matttalkonline.com/join-the-team. $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to give. If you think the content is worth your time, I think it is because I'm producing it, obviously. But, I don't want to sit there and beg for assistance by any means because, the lights will stay on. It's just I may not produce as much. But it's nice to be, supported by the wrestling community in terms of showing the appreciation. $5 a month, hey. That's 2 cans of soda. That's a cup of coffee. By the way, I am at, I think I'm like at 119 or 120 days. I used to use this reference. I used to say it's a can of chew. Well, guess what? I don't chew anymore. I don't dip. I've given it up. It's been 100 and almost 120 days since I had a lipper. And I was bad too. I was like can a day, the bottles were just yeah. Anyway, anybody that knows that I was fighting that for a long time, and it's one of those things that unfortunately wrestling kind of introduced me to. That is not an excuse, but hey, I have July 5th is the last time. Now every now and then I have basically an old can that I'll crack open and smell it and be like, does it make me want to have it, or does it repulse me? It actually repulses me now. So those of you struggling with quitting and things of that nature, hey, it's a fight and it's tough. Wrestling tournaments are long car drives. So, power through. It's tough, man. I think this is not the longest time I've ever quit, but it is definitely the most significant because now I got a wife and children to worry about. So I'm happy to report that. I got big news coming next week too. Next show, this is big news, not for the network. This is big personal news that I want to share with the wrestling community, but I don't want to do it just yet because, I'm waiting for this week to clear out. We got a new month coming up. I'm heading to preseason nationals next week. So yeah. Anyway, big news coming and I'm blown away by it, but I've got to wait until everybody's been contacted before I go. So that being said, I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me. I'd like to thank our guest, Sally Roberts. Sally Roberts, one of my favorites. She's one of my all-time favorite, people in wrestling, not just wrestlers, but yeah, Sal's has always been one of my favorites ever since I met her to Worlds in 03, and just great personality. So get behind Wrestle Like a Girl, wrestleLikeAGirl.org. You can contribute to this program and this network at matttalkonline.com/join the team as well. I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time, say it with me now, in your car, in your office, listening in the sauna, which you're really probably not supposed to be because it's wrestling season, and I think they're technically illegal still. Yeah, they are. Yeah, you've always got time. For short time. Dig it.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.